is an update on the old hashtag draft our daughters joke becoming a reality, as the House has now passed the 2022 NDAA, which includes an expansion of the Selective Service Act, but basically having to register to the draft to now include women. So there are important consequences to that if you don't register for the draft, even though there hasn't been a draft since I've been alive, and I think I'm now out of the draft age, or I soon will be. And yeah, so if but people don't register for the draft, and then it cuts them off to being able to get federal government student loans, being able to work a federal job. There have been people prosecuted for not registering for the draft, and bringing draft cards and all that kind of stuff. That could definitely happen. But even if this is maybe not the biggest issue, I think most people feel like they're like, they're probably not going to do another draft, and if they do, we'll confront it then. However, I think this is significant because it's basically saying that the state owns your life, and if they want to, in any ill-begotten quest that they could find around the world, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, Mali, or Vietnam, the Philippines, that they'll draft you, and they'll go send you to die in that conflict, to kill or be killed, and you'll come back scarred for life, and they won't give you any kind of real, restitution for that. They'll give you inadequate health care. They'll sell major promises about, how it'll help you with education or something like that, and they'll never really come through. And so, there's a lot of reasons why, to oppose the Selective Service Act and to oppose the draft. But I think the main one is it reinforces to all Americans that the state really does own you and can use you as cannon fodder in any of their stupid wars that they want to. And look, I'm not saying that the draft shouldn't be eliminated for men or anything like that. And I know that there's some people who say, well, expanding it to women will make people more interested in repealing it overall, but I really don't agree with going that route. I think you definitely don't need to have it for women, but you definitely do need it to repeal it for men as well. There was one Congressman, Chip Roy, who says he voted against the NDAA, at least in part because it included this, and he was upset at his Republican colleagues for voting for it for that reason. One of the amazing things here is that this got added to the NDAA in committee, and then Nancy Pelosi in the House leadership did not allow a vote on an amendment to repeal this thing from the bill. So this actually could possibly get passed, because I believe it's already in the Senate bill as well, without a vote in the House and the Senate on it. If this is something that you really thought was necessary, I think it does rise to the level of significance that you would actually have a debate on it in a House vote and a Senate vote, and at least then people could vote out senators that they feel are representatives that they feel vote the wrong way, whatever way it was on this kind of thing. But this is something that they're really sneaking along. Now, the reason they're doing this is because there has been court rulings in recent years. The ACLU brought a case, and some men's rights organizations as well, basically saying this is discriminatory. And it is. I mean, if you don't register, this is going to, and it only applies to males, then you're going to get cut out of student loans and things like, it could significantly limit your prospects in life, especially if you're somebody who, doesn't have a lot of connections or something like that. Look, if your parents could pay for your college, or if you have, enough connections to get a good job in the private sector, fine. But, there are a lot of people who government jobs are a way, and not that I like expansive government jobs, but the way our current economy is set up, if you freeze people out of government jobs, it can really, freeze them out of a significant way to work, in at least close to the middle class. And so that's a real issue. And of course, student loans take away, if you don't have the money to pay for it another way, it takes away another prospect. And so again, it could really take away a lot of somebody's prospects. All right, I don't think I had to make any more arguments on the draft here. I just want to update that it did pass the House and it's in the Senate bill. And so we could be looking at everybody having to register for the draft, men and women, without a major vote in this kind of sneaking through. Now, another note on the NDAA, and this is actually a little bit of good news, is it includes a bill that will allow, or is supposed to allow, the the federal regulators are supposed to not seek or go after banks who are serving cannabis businesses when it's legal under state law. And so, I live in Colorado. This was proposed by Ed Perlmutter, who's a Democrat from Colorado. And there is an issue with a lot of these, dispensaries and legal cannabis companies where there's a very limited number of banks that they could work with. This is titled the Safe Banking Act, and it is, I guess, has some bipartisan support in the Senate. And so there is a chance that this could get into the Senate bill as well. If not, of course, we'll see what happens out of conference committee on it. It could go either way, it seems like. But Rand Paul has introduced it. There's a coalition of at least 9 Republicans who are on board, so that's plenty. If even almost all the Democrats are willing to support this, which I really hope that they would, because this would be a significant step in helping legal marijuana in the U.S. So, this was a little bit of good news that got into the bill. Now, it does seem wholly unrelated to the NDAA, but, they sneak so many bad things into these bills. If we, slide a good thing into one of them, just have to be happy with it. One more note on Congress is that 2 senators, and these are senior Democratic senators, Dick Durbin from Illinois and Patrick Leahy from Vermont, they sent a letter, mostly in reference to the August 29th drone strike in Kabul, calling on the Biden administration to end drone strikes outside of war zones. Now, there's a real concerning thing about this letter to me, just the preface of it, because really with the war in Afghanistan, the withdrawal there's no other authorized U.S. wars, and so there really should be no war zones. And by even saying that, you could only carry these things out in war zones and then identifying like Iraq and Syria, that I don't know, seems to suggest that there are wars that Congress has introduced or has approved, which is absolutely not the case. But there is the de facto approval that's been going on for nearly a decade, and Congress hasn't done anything about it. So overall, I think this letter is a good thing. The more important politicians you have, even if they are corrupt people, calling for an end to drone strikes in more countries, that's great. Now, it does seem that the Biden administration is going to continue to drop drone strikes in Afghanistan, despite the failures of the August 29th strike, but I'll get into that later in the show.